Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling. Shall we see what's going on a lovely island of Fawnhallow today? Where we'll be oh, that was a bit loud. Relaxing. Excuse me. Later recording today, we had a D&D session today. Definitely, probably one of the most chill ones from this group in recent time. Mainly it was sort of like trying to go back and fix some of the mistakes that we made. And last time I spoke about it, basically they divulged a lot of secrets to someone who definitely someone who has a lot of influence to be able to use those sort of secrets. But you know, they're well, I'm gonna get into that in a second. Good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 11:32 p.m. on Wednesday, November 13th, 2024. I'm not going to give away entirely exactly what's going on behind the NPC's minds, but they didn't murder them all immediately. I can definitely see if this was a different group of people who are opposing the main characters, if they did that, probably would have straight up murdered them all, like on the spot, which would not have been really that fun for anyone. But this group is, as I say, or this person is much more easily able to be reasoned with, I suppose. But yeah, this is basically the sort of steps that they're trying to take to try and minimise exactly the effect that they've had of, well, hello tarantula. Order, you are not even slightly scared. I thought villagers cowered at tarantulas and scorpions and things like that, but hey, more power to you. Maybe it's a villager specific thing where some of them don't. Oh, maybe only when they're aggressive. Fauna? Even you're just like, what's going on with that spider there? That's crazy. But tarantulas don't do anything, right? Until, oh no. You did have a deep sigh there afterwards, so. Anyway, so it's mostly about them sort of trying to see like what they can do to get themselves out of their situation. And I was thinking about it as well, and I was like, okay, they're talking with the NPCs right now. The NPCs, well, at least can come up with a plan, or what I think the best course of action would be. But they actually came up with a plan naturally, or one of them did. So I was like, oh, okay, fair enough. But basically the plan is play dumb. Quote Spider-Man, play dumb. Who's Morales? Not bad, dumb. Which is a fantastic quote. Which, yeah, I don't know, but playing dumb is a very interesting tactic, I think, in both real life and in this very specific scenario. I should really put like clear designs down between these lights, so I won't have to deal with the flowers and the weeds growing out of control here. But anywho, because playing dumb, some people love to. I'm trying to think how to phrase this, because playing dumb, theoretically, I feel like shouldn't work as well as it usually does, because most people will have a sort of assumption of, isn't it better to assume your enemy is smart than accept that your enemy is dumb, right? Until really proven otherwise. Just like as a sort of like a precaution, if anything, you don't want to underestimate your enemy, because that's how not bad things happen necessarily. Well, I mean, maybe bad things. It kind of depends what sort of conflict you're embroiled up in, but it's kind of how devastating mistakes and losses can happen in like the tactical game of chess you're playing, whether it be a love confession or, I don't know, literal chess. I don't know, I had Kaguya Lovers War in my mind, despite the fact I've not watched any of the seasons past season 1. I really should, because I really enjoyed season 1, but anyway, not the point. The point is, I'm surprised at how well playing dumb works. I feel like it feeds off this sort of innate human desire of wanting to, I'm not sure if superiority is the right word, but wanting to feel like good and accomplish at something, despite the fact that we all try and stay humble, etc., etc. And within our lives, I feel like there is an innate desire of humankind to try to want to be good. Like, does it feel better to be good at something or to be bad at something? I think most people would be like, okay, I mean, if I had the choice and there's no repercussions of either, yeah, I would choose to be good at something, even if it's something that they don't care about, right? Like, if I asked you right now, would you rather be the best, like, I'm trying to think of something which people don't really care about. I don't know, think of a hobby which you don't care about. For this example, I'm going to use football. soccer for you American folks. Would I want to be not even the best soccer player in the world or best football player in the world, but like just really good? Like I just want to suddenly gain the skills of like I don't know, like a collegiate level football player? Yeah, I don't see why not, right? But there's no benefit. There's no real like benefit or deficit. Like, why would I choose to, like, if I had the option between that and the skills of like a newborn baby of football? Like, why would I choose a newborn baby? Of course I would choose like collegiate level football player, someone who's played like a university team. There's like no deficit to it if there is no downside, right? Now that's not really a good example because things in life are not necessarily consequence free, right? Things don't always come with a cost, but often do. There's always a sort of like push and pull within this. But there is an innate human desire, I feel like, to want to win at things. Like, even I don't I don't consider myself particularly competitive, but do I prefer winning to losing? I mean, like, if given the choice and there was no difference about it, yeah, I guess I would choose to win. Like, I'm not sure why I would choose to unpurposely lose unless you get something out of it. Not unless you get something out of it, unless there's, well, no, maybe I do think that, unless you get something out of it. Because I think the most common thing would be like, not so much, it doesn't matter if you win or lose, it doesn't matter either way, it's more of like the experience you gain from it. But if experience doesn't matter, if you get the same experience on winning and losing, and there's no harm, like you winning does not make it significantly worse for someone else losing, then like, it's sort of like the natural expectation is you would choose to win, wouldn't you? Which is interesting. Like, makes me sort of wonder, is it truly possible to be like non-competitive? Again, I say I consider myself non-competitive, but if you put me in like a competition, yeah, I'm gonna still try and win. It's like, to me, I suppose maybe it's the semantics here, because it's kind of like there's like literally non-competitive, which means that yes, like your actions towards winning and losing are 50-50, like completely. You it's almost a coin flip. Not whether you win or lose in the end, but whether you try to win or lose in equal amounts in the end. And there's also this sort of like implied understanding of what being non-competitive means. Basically meaning that, yeah, you'll probably at least like put your best foot forward in a competition. Like, you'll still abide by the rules. You're not going to play dirty. You'll play fair, and you'll do your best to at least like try and compete, and you'll do your best to win. But it doesn't matter if you do win. It doesn't matter if you do lose, because at the end you will have a good time, right? Because that's kind of what you mean by non-competitive. But you could, I suppose, argue that being non-competitive should technically mean that you literally do not try and compete at all. It's almost like the same sort of views I have with humility, except for I feel like I land on the other side of the fence for this one, where I say humility. You know, people say humility is you kind of have to be like degrading, if anything. You have to be the complete opposite of prideful, which means that you can never take pride in what you do. You can never sort of be like, oh, you can never be happy that you did something well. And to me, I always argue that like that's not what humility is. That's self-depreciation. If anything, true humility should not be the lack of appreciation, the lack of self-confidence. It should be the understanding of a reasonable, grounded self-confidence. So you do not go above your station. You undershoot your station, of course, a little bit, but you don't completely misrepresent your station. Like, if you're a collegiate level football player, for example, saying, "Oh, I'm terrible at football," is not humble, in my opinion. That's ridiculous. You played on university level. Of course you're somewhat good at football. It'd be much more humble to say, oh, you know, I'm like decent at football, like, I'm good at football, but I still have a lot to learn or something. Being able to be humble in the sense that not everything needs necessary perfection, but understanding that there's a lot more to being good at something, I suppose, than just straight up, are you the best, are you worst at something? And humility itself should be represented by something which accurately represents that, reflects it even. Humility is defined by understanding the parameters you're in and accurately representing them, rather than the lack of any representation of such parameters. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know if I understand what I'm saying. Anyway, this feels like the opposite thing, where it's like non-competitiveness. What does it mean to be non-competitive? Well, maybe I don't know the other side of the issue now I think about it. What does it mean to be non-competitive? If we're to use the same analogy, you might take a literal meaning as meaning, oh, you should not compete at all. Like, competition should be utterly meaningless to you, whether you reframe it as something which has consequences for winning and losing and something which doesn't. It should be exactly the same with what you do. But at the same time, non-competitive and a much more realistic, pragmatic representation is like you just still, try your best probably to win, but like in the same way that humility works, you do your best to win, but it doesn't matter if you win or lose, right? Now, I'm convincing myself, like, if I'm using the humility analogy, that should be how competitiveness is applied. Anyway, long and short of that is, because I feel like there's not an inherent competitiveness to everyone, but an inherent desire to be able to do well at something. Playing dumb is a very interesting sort of tactic which emerges from that, no? It sort of preys upon that nature, because, if you feel yourself outclassing your opponent, it's very easy to be lulled into like a false sense of security, right? Being like, oh, I outclass this opponent, I don't need to try as hard. If you don't try as hard, then you're not as difficult an opponent to defeat anymore, and thus it sort of ends up working. And I mean this in like a more like tactical sense. It's not necessarily like a competition, right? Playing dumb, like what about like a battle of rhetoric, one might say. There's something interesting about playing dumb in like an argument, right? Because it's intensely frustrating dealing or trying to argue with someone who is it's frustrating, I suppose, to deal with someone who is obtuse, I suppose, in the first place, or ignorant is perhaps a better way to put it. It's even more frustrating to try and deal with someone who's intentionally being obtuse, no? Intentionally being like, I don't understand what you're saying. Intentionally not wanting to understand what you say. Does that make sense? I'm not sure if it's made the sense I wanted it to make. But it's the sort of thing where it's like preying upon that kind of works in multiple ways. It kind of works in the sense that, like, oh yeah, it's intensely annoying to deal with someone like that, but it's also intensely easy to lower your guard for it as well. Does any of that make sense? I don't know if any of that makes sense. It's just kind of, I'm trying to conceptualize this understanding, which I'm not entirely sure if I have, of why playing dumb is a surprisingly, perhaps, effective strategy. Because, like, to what extent do you have to play dumb anyway for it to work? What if you had to make, like, a literal blunder, thinking in chess terms, to truly represent yourself playing or seeming like a fool? Because if anything, you're sort of, that's like a future investment. You're trying to be like, okay, I'm going to play dumb, and I'm going to hope this ends up paying out, that the advantage I'm giving up now can be making up for the advantage I will gain from like a much more procedural, gradual level. Is that something which is possible? Is that something which can be done as easily? I don't really know, to be honest. It just sort of feels like it might be a little bit difficult for it to probably work out. Or maybe it's not. Therein lies an interesting question, I suppose, of why it ends up working, I don't know. I feel like playing dumb, at least, feels much more common in sort of the aspect of feigning ignorance for, absolution of your crime is a bit much, but like, the way I'm trying to think of it is just like, oh, you're a child or something who did something, and your parents is like, hey, did you do this? And feigning ignorance of being like, no. I don't know if it had such a bluey tone to it. No. I can't recreate it. Anyway, but sort of idea of trying to play dumb. Of course, a lot of the time the parents can kind of see right through. No, they can just be like, of course, like, you know, just by the things you said or the way you reacted. So it's not like kids can play dumb that well. I don't know, actually. Is that true? But it's sort of like an inverse bell curve of playing dumb. You have to, if you are like truly ignorant of a situation, it's very easy to play dumb because you don't know what's going on. And then if you're very, very smart and like think through all the exact possibilities and ways that you should react to something, it can be quite easy to play dumb as well. But then there's this like awkward point in the middle where it's just like you know enough but not enough how to pretend that you don't know and end up giving away information, right? I don't really know where I was going with any of this. It kind of feels like a Sun Tzu art of war, sort of. Like I'm trying to have a discussion being like, what is the best way to play dumb? If one wants to play dumb, you should X, Y, Z. Which is, you know, how does that end up working? I don't think it does, but still. I'm just... Anyway, the long and short of it is, how's the D&D party going to play dumb? Well, they're trying to do it right now. I'm not going to say or reveal anything for how effective or not effective it's going to be, or it is being, it has been, that's a word, so far. But it will certainly be interesting however it pans out. There's always consequences to things. It's not like you get off scot-free just like that. Anyway, long and short. Is a long and short of this play dumb? I don't really know what a long and short of it is, to be honest. Just I don't really know if there was much of a conclusion to any of this. I was just sort of thinking aloud, if anything, just being like, what does play dumb? How does play dumb even work? And the answer is, I guess it just does. Maybe I'm not strategic enough to really dive into the nitty-gritty to be like, yes, this is why playing dumb sort of preys upon the human condition. Anyway, I'm right now. I guess I'll round this episode up here. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons, and I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So, until next time, bye-bye for now.